Dan, thank you so much for coming on the show today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So I'm looking forward to this because I have a funny feeling we're going to end up talking about a fair few different things. But before we jump into that, can you tell people a little bit about who you are and what you currently do, and also how you got here?
Yeah, wow, big question. I'm Dan McGaw. I'm the CEO founder of a couple companies. I run a company called McGaw.io. We're a marketing technology and marketing analytics consulting company. So we work with a lot of big brands on building their MarTech stack and their analytics stack. And then I also am the CEO of another company called UTM.io, which is a SaaS product which does campaign link management. So that way, when you make any of your marketing campaigns, you can add the right UTMs and you don't mess it up so your analytics comes in all clean. So I have those two companies. But I've been in this space for over 20 years. So I got my start back in 1998 sending mass emails since before there was even really mass email. So I've just been doing this for a long time. A lot of people recognize me from when I was the head of marketing at Kissmetrics. I was the head of marketing there, helped lead that rocket ship. I was the first employee and also head of growth at a company called Code School. Was there for about 2 years and then sold that company to Pluralsight. So I've just been around for a while, seen some stuff, and I get to have fun every day, living my dream. So it's a lot of fun.
I like the way you like that. Been around for a while and seen some stuff in that tiny short intro where I'm sure we haven't even scratched the surface of the experiences that you've had. That's pretty incredible. And so for everyone that's listening that maybe doesn't know what, I'm going to start with Kissmetrics because I think that's one that's probably quite valuable to everyone listening. Can you tell everyone a little bit about what Kissmetrics does and also the importance of that for small business marketing, I guess?
Yeah, so Kissmetrics is a really, really popular analytics tool, and it's kind of like Google Analytics, except for Google Analytics only told you what happened, and Kissmetrics will tell you not only what happened, but you can also work with it to make it so it'll tell you who is doing it. Kissmetrics is able to store all of your customer data, all of the actions that they do, and then be able to help you report on that. Kissmetrics actually invented the funnel report, the horizontal funnel report that you see. Does a really, really good job with helping you track your funnels, all of your marketing efforts, and things like that. It was started by Neil Patel and Heaton Shah, who are also the founders of Crazy Egg, the very famous heat mapping tool out there. So kind of a legendary team. But definitely a lot of fun running that ship as the head of marketing. It was a very fun place to be.
That sounds awesome. So today we're going to try and talk a little bit about some MarTech, marketing technology, and we're going to try not to get too carried away because I think we both enjoy the technical aspects of this, but trying to keep it so that people can understand a little bit about it. But what are some of the real core basics that you would say for any small to mid-sized business that's trying to do better on their digital side? What are some of the key core tools that they should be using?
Yeah. I think every business needs some sort of email or marketing automation. And I think we definitely have moved past the days of when you just needed an email marketing tool. You really do need a marketing automation tool that is enabling you to do email, hopefully text message, enabling you to interact across multiple channels. So I would say marketing automation by far. I mean, the main players in the space, of course, everybody knows who HubSpot is. HubSpot's pretty cool. It gets pretty pricey really quickly for a small business. So while it does do everything, I do caution, especially businesses who are budget conscious, that HubSpot might not be the best one. There's other platforms out there. Another really popular technology called Autopilot. They used to have a product called Autopilot Journeys. If you can't find access to that tool, just hit me up over LinkedIn. I'm happy to help you find that one. The new version of Autopilot, though, is super amazing for small businesses and medium-sized businesses. It uses a lot of artificial intelligence to actually help you understand what email you should create. It will write the copy for you. It will write the subject line for you. So super, super powerful. But I would definitely say you need something that's going to automate and orchestrate as much as you can, because you don't want to do that yourself, right? Like, you got better things to do, focus on your customers. You need to automate as much as you can.
This is always one of the interesting points, right? There's so many people out there that are advocates for create loads of content, write loads of blogs, make lots of videos, everything else. And the reality is, and we've all been there if we've ever worked in a startup or if we've ever had our own startup, there's not enough hours in the day. There just simply isn't. And, you've got to be running the business and making sure that works, not writing 16 blogs a day so that you can get, hundreds of pieces of content out a week. What's some of the biggest challenges you'd say that small businesses have? You've mentioned like the budgetary constraints, but what are some of the challenges they have when it comes to looking at this marketing automation and trying to put something in place?
Yeah. Really just technology like experience or education. I mean, I think a lot of business owners really do struggle with the tech. I mean, it can get pretty technical pretty quickly in some of these areas, right? So when you're working with the big systems like Marketo or Salesforce Marketing Cloud, you really do have to have a lot of experience to put the tool to work. So I think that's one area where a lot of people get a little skittish about it and stuff like that. But really, if you use some of the tried and true tools that are really good in that space, I think MailChimp makes it pretty easy. ActiveCampaign makes it pretty easy. Going back, Autopilot, once again, I mean, it will write the emails for you, right? So I mean, like that, there's no easier thing than that. And so I think the technology part is what's intimidating to most people, and that's where people kind of struggle. But that's also one reason why we tell a lot of people, hey, listen, you can find somebody on Upwork for $10, $20 an hour who can really help you get those little technical pieces over the hump. Focus on the things that you can do, maybe outsource some of it to a small contractor to do some of the other pieces, and they'll really be able to kind of push you forward. But that technology component, of course, like people feel that they have to know how to code and all this stuff, but technology's come so far. You don't need to know how to code to get this stuff going. You might need some help to add the JavaScript to your website, but that's pretty straightforward and simple.
I do find that a lot of these subjects end up being massive rabbit holes, right? So somebody will have told a small business owner, you need to look into SEO and do some SEO. And if you actually start getting into that sort of a subject, it's remarkably deep. Like I know people who do this all day, every day for a living. And, sometimes when they talk to me and I consider myself fairly technical, I glaze over at certain points.
Yeah, same here.
Sorry to everyone that's in SEO who's listening. But what's some of the ways that people can avoid that? Because I think that causes the fatigue. When you start digging in and you realize, scratching the surface and the idea of doing something super simple, like making sure you got email automation, for example, that sounds pretty simple, pretty high level. But when you start digging into all of these things, you start getting into it, you start sort of over complicating things. What's some of the ways that people can keep it super simple?
Yeah. Well, one, that's what KISS stands for, like keep it stupid simple. So at the end of the day, I think people have to set and manage their own expectations very early on, and make sure that they say, hey, I'm just going to get this started. And this is going to be a 1-2 year, maybe 3-year endeavor. Where I'm going to work on this process. And, a lot of things, I even thinking back to myself, right, like how I manage these types of big things is like, I typically set a 1-year horizon, like, hey, my objective this year is to set up marketing automation. And I know I'm not going to do it in 2 weeks or 3 weeks or 2 months. I know I'm going to have to like build slowly at a time and build over time because I need to gain that experience. And I think people just misset their expectations. I've got to be the master at it. I've got to be perfect at it. And it's like, honestly, if you just do 4 hours of research, you're already way ahead of everybody else. And then if you put that into play, I mean, you're doing more than 90% of the people out there. So take your time, go slow, manage your own expectations, and give yourself a long horizon. There's no point in saying, I got to get this done in 4 weeks. Yeah, it might have an impact if you get the first iteration done in the first 4 weeks, but it doesn't have to be perfect the first time. Get it out, get it live and learn from that experience and then build onto it over a long period of time. So I think people should just give themselves a longer time to roll all this stuff out.
I think it's always interesting because I always talk about this as we run a lot of experiments. We tell our clients as an agency, like, we're going to try this, like, strong possibility this does not work, right? I think most marketers tend to talk about the wins. This is what we did here and it worked so well. And, our ROI was 4 billion% or whatever it is in their little statistic. But the reality is that's what most of us are doing most of the time, right? We're trying things, they don't necessarily work. We iterate, we try again, we change things, we adapt language, we do all sorts of things. Like, we're constantly experimenting and playing with this. And I think it's something that, not enough people talk about necessarily. So when people are out there, and like you said, right, I got to get it all done in 4 weeks. Let's go. Like, I've read 3 articles. I can do this. And like you said, invariably you run out of time. It's exhausting. You're not getting any results and anything else. Would you agree with that? Like, I think most marketers don't necessarily give people the right impression of just how many iterations maybe we've gone through over our careers to get to the decisions that we make today.
Yeah, no, we don't talk about our failures nearly enough. And that's honestly, I mean, we do conversion rate optimization for multiple of our clients. And, our batting average is like, maybe 10%, 20% of our tests are successful or have a big impact. 70 to 80% of the tests are complete failures. And nobody really talks about the failures and the grind it really takes to get there. And this is one reason why I always tell marketers, I mean, at the end of the day, right, like marketing is just like going on a diet. It's all about whether it's your lifestyle or whether it's a fad. And if you have a healthy lifestyle, you eat good, you exercise, and that's your lifestyle, right? It's not just some fad diet. You're going to be really good because you're consistent with it. And that's just like what marketing is. It's more about consistency and the continuation than it is like these big blow up things. It's a lot of failures on your way to success, and that's the reason why you just have to be consistent with it. It's a lifestyle change. It's not a diet. It's not a New Year's resolution. And it's the companies that suck at marketing are the ones that are like, it's a New Year's resolution. I'm going to do it this time. We're going to get it right this year, guys. And then they don't stay committed or dedicated. Because at the end of the day, it sucks. I mean, I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to sugarcoat it for anybody. I've been doing this for 20 years, over 20 years now. And even being an entrepreneur, like the first thing that founders always, what's the one bit of advice you would give an entrepreneur? And I'd be like, it's going to suck. Like that's at the end of the day. So you just got to remember that, like, you take your wins when you can, but you've just got to be consistent over a long period of time. And that's really how it all ends up working out.
You're remarkably nice. When people say to me, you know, like if I'm thinking about becoming an entrepreneur, I'm like, don't seriously. Like I remember and dream about the days of a solid paycheck. It's been that long. But it is about that. You're completely right. You know, you say 20 years in September, it'll be 13 years since I launched this agency. And you looking
Congrats.
back, I mean, we're still here. Wow. Against a lot of adversity, but it's interesting because we look back over projects that we've started, projects that we owned and ran that went well. You know, you sell one, that's the one you talk about. We don't talk about the 28 other ones that we tried and that failed miserably. It's fine. That doesn't matter. But for me, it is one of those things. And we talk to this with a lot of clients, especially like you said, you know, come on, guys, we want you to pitch to us and give us the best thing in the world that we can do. And we're going to make it fantastic and a big blow and big show and all this. And we're like that. It won't work. And they're like that. What do you mean? It's like, these guys have pitched us some animation. You're like that. Great. Like, it's not animation that we need. It's the core messaging. It's how do we get this stuff out on a regular basis, every single week in, week out, bearing in mind the resources that you have as a client. And basically we end up losing business. I'm okay with it because invariably the ones that I watch and track aren't doing particularly well afterwards. But it's a real shame because what you mentioned earlier, the consistency, the continuation and the building on it is where you get the wins, as far as I'm concerned anyway, and from what I've seen. Starting with a baseline that's comfortable, that people can adhere to, that you can actually make work for you, that fits in with your budget, because the amount of people that have said to me, you know, I want everything under the sun, and I've got like £600 a month to spend, and you're like that. Cool. Well, we can, you know, look at which way to point you in the right direction with that kind of budget, and that's about it. But I think it's really important that people realize that getting that baseline, getting your core, who you are, the right messaging across, even if it's only one blog a month to start with, if that's all you can do, if that's all you can afford to do, if that's all you can actually put out there, then make it your monthly update blog, make it a monthly thing, tell people that that's what you're going to do, but stick to that. And by doing that, I think you create a better relationship with people, especially in your audience, over a longer term than you do by, like you said, New Year's resolution, January, 15 blogs go out. Yeah, we did it. And then, you know, February, quiet. And you just see, you know, the tumbleweed goes past.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%.
It's challenging. Anyway, poor people. I wanted to ask you, build cool shit.
Yeah.
So I'm interested in this because I believe everyone should try and build cool shit. And also because, oh, look at it. There it is. I'm really interested. So tell me a little bit about the book, but more importantly, why did you write it?
Yeah. Well, you know, I think the hardest part for companies is understanding, like, they have to build this marketing technology stack to operate their business and run their business. And they have these outcomes that they don't really know what they wanted to do. So what I wanted to do was kind of distill all the noise that's out there from all the craziness and try to make it easy for anybody to really understand, like, hey, this is how you build a marketing tech stack. And then these are 3 examples of how you would put this into play. And it's a tried and true marketing tech stack that we use in there. It's featuring a case study from one of our clients, a company called RealThread. And it really does tell you, like, hey, these are some of the biggest tools that you should really be using as the mainstay of your stack. And then once you have those tools set up, these are what you can do. And it talks about progressive profiling for personalization, talks about lead scoring, data enrichment, and also talks about analytical reporting, and talks about how we solved this really hard problem for RealThread, which was is they have an offline business and an online business, and they needed to merge the two and be able to track all the customers. And we were able to really effectively do that in the book. So it was fun to write. We had a really good time doing it. But it's your blueprint to creating a marketing technology stack, and we've got a lot of great reviews about it. It's nice in color format, so that way you can like see what the hell is going on. But it's also really short, so it's not going to take you 6 months to read. It's 135 pages, so it's really easy to get through in a weekend, and then be like, man, I can really do something about this. So we wanted to make sure that it was super practical and as well as tactical to kind of push people forward.
There's a lot of people out there that promise the world, and I'm not putting you in this category at all, but I'm pretty sure you'll equate to what I'm saying, or relate to it, I should say. There's a lot of people out there that are selling the next big dream, right? This is the funnel that's going to create you $1 million overnight whilst you sleep, and you don't have to do any work for it, or whatever it might be. And for me, I've said this on this show 1,000 times. I think 99.9% of them are heathens. I think you might find one or two gold nuggets of ideas in what they're trying to sell. But I don't believe there's a one size fits all. I don't believe there's a one strategy fits everyone. I don't believe that because somebody built a successful travel blog 12 years ago that you should quit your job, go traveling the world and try and set up a travel blog, right? It's hard. Like, what's the best piece of advice for anyone? Like, because when you're looking at this, it sounds easy, right? There's a blueprint, but there's going to be a lot which either has to apply to you and your business, or that potentially doesn't apply to you and your business, and identifying what those key elements are. What are some of the ways that people can really dig into that and figure that part out for themselves?
So I got a great bit of advice a long time ago that I wish I would have had earlier, but it's if somebody hasn't done it successfully 3 times before, then why are you taking advice for them about something? So you really have to listen but be skeptical of what you're being told from other people and how they're presenting it, because at the end of the day, natural human nature is to embellish results, to embellish the metrics, make it seem like it was so much more successful, and hide all the things that sucked about it, right? Like, that's just natural human nature. So you really do have to be kind of skeptical with some of the things that are out there. And when you really start to do research on, like, is this going to be successful? Well, was this example used in your industry, in your vertical? And, like, has this person done this multiple times? Because we all get lucky once, right? So, like, you really want to make sure that you're listening to somebody who has been successful, and then also multiple times, and then also does it apply to your business? And at the same time, you have to take all that information you learned, and then you have to apply it to your business in the way that it's going to be most effective. So you really do have to kind of minutia whatever you heard. And even with my book, you know, the example that's in the book is definitely a B2B example, right? You can use many of the principles in a B2C company, but the book is B2B. So, like, if you're a B2C company, you're probably not going to want to roll out Salesforce in the way that we had talked about in the book. But you probably want to use the lead scoring model that we bring up, because lead scoring should be used in all businesses, right? Like, understanding valuable leads and bad leads are really important. So, you know, there's a book, and I can't remember the gentleman's name, but it's called, I think it's the 4 Agreements, and one of them is the listen and be skeptical. I think that's a really good thing whenever you're taking advice, is like, hey, listen, be respectful, but you have to also be skeptical of what people are telling you, because it's never the full truth, right? Like, I wish it was, and I try to be as honest as I can. It gets me in trouble all the time, but at the same time, I'm not going to always throw myself under the bus or say something was miserable when I might say it was good, it was great, right? So you have to be skeptical of what you're hearing.
Well, it's a bit like, well, in society in general, right? We talk about overnight successes, and we ignore, you know, the 25 years of that person before they got the overnight success that made them, I don't know, Colonel Sanders, for example. But the thing is that is the way we've become, right? It's the Instagram moment that looks perfect and that makes your life look amazing. And then in the reality, you know, everything's on fire everywhere around you, and there's no way to put it out. But it is a shame, because I do think a lot of people get the wrong idea. And if you're a small business, if you have limited budget, there's more than enough free content out there before you start paying for any courses, or before you start paying for, like you mentioned, somebody who did it once, maybe got lucky or whatever else, who's then offering you the chance to be as successful as they are whilst they teach you how to do it. I'm always kind of skeptical about that. And I think that's Anyway, I just wanted to put that out there again. Another one of my little reminders to people not to go and spunk a load of money on something that potentially isn't going to work out the way you had hoped.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and for that fact, right, like you can get a copy of my book for free, right? So like, I don't even want you to pay for the book. It's $22 for the book, but I'll give everybody on the podcast an opportunity to get a free copy of my book. So if you pull out your cell phone, right, and you go to your text messages and then put in this number. So this is if you're out of the United States, obviously put a 1, but 415-915-9011. I'll say that number again, 415-915-9011. And if you text the word MARTECH, MARTECH, to that number, it will take you through a text bot, which is going to help you get a free copy of my book. Once it asks you for your first name, give it your first name, give it your last name, all that stuff. But this is a really, really low cost way to be able to, one, get people a free copy of my book. But naturally, you'll see how I'm collecting, obviously, people's information by doing this as well. Now, this isn't an easy thing to accomplish, but it wasn't also rocket science either, right? Like, so this is built using Autopilot's bot, SMS bot integrated in with Twilio. I did hire somebody from Upwork for $20 an hour to help me get that Twilio integration set up. But it was only, I think, maybe 4 or 5 hours for them to knock that part out and get it set up. And now I can build text bots, right? So, try to keep it cheap, try to keep it easy. I'm always trying to use tools for free, but that's a good way that everybody can get a free copy of my book, just like all the other free content that's out there, except for I would say that mine's pretty damn good too.
Humble as well. The thing is, though, it is interesting because, like you've just mentioned there's nothing wrong with, and I don't think people mind giving their information over when they know clearly that this is transactional. And I think this is where people kind of get a little bit confused, you know, doing lead magnets or giving away a free copy of your book or whatever it might be. That still works. It's still a marketing tactic that has been around for decades, I think is fair to say. And it's still going very, very well in that sense. So I think it's something for people to recognize, but also you've mentioned this is a far more advanced version of this. We've done some stuff for clients in terms of Facebook Messenger bots and things like that as well, with a little bit of automation, pull the information piece by piece, done. Everyone's happy and you get the same desired effect. But actually on our website, we have just a really simple get a marketing calendar. It's the most simple version of what we've ever used from very, very early on. And the idea, you know, we still get 5-6 downloads a week, every single week. People join our mail list because they want the free calendar. It's a really good way to introduce people to who you are. And I think that's something that I guess, asking from your point of view, obviously you've just done it. And this one sounds very cool. So I'm going to have a play with this afterwards. But what's how would you try and encourage people to do something similar to this? You know, they don't have to run away and write a book for the next 6 months and go bankrupt in the middle of it. But what's the kind of simple ways that they can set something like this up?
Yeah, I mean, you know, naturally, if you're looking to be able to generate leads and you want to get them in, I mean, you can always offer promotional discounts to be able to get them to give you their email. I mean, the number one thing that we're always focused on with all of our clients, no matter what we're doing, is how do we capture an email, right? How do we get the contact information from that person as quickly as we possibly can? And discounts are definitely an easy way to do it. At the end of the day, you know, honestly, when I joined Kissmetrics, one of the problems that I was faced with is that we were losing leads on a monthly basis. So we were going down. So we were like 2,700 leads a month, right about 3 months before I came there. And every month since that month, we were losing 100 to 200 leads a month. And my first job when I got there was we need that number to go back up. And, you know, what we did was we had some really, really long form blog posts that were about like Facebook marketing and LinkedIn marketing. And I said, you know what? We don't have the time to like deal with this. We have a designer on staff. Like we need to get leads up. So I took those blog posts. We had them repurposed into PDFs. And then on other blog posts, we would say at the bottom of it, hey, download this free Facebook guide. You obviously are reading about Twitter on social media. And we rolled out all of those blog posts that we already had. We paid our designer, of course, to cover it. And then he turned them into PDFs. And then immediately we were able to get a lot more leads. And we saw a 17% increase in that first week of putting that program out. So you probably already have content that you can use or repurpose. Take a blog post, which is long, turn it into a quick 3-page PDF. Hire a designer off of Upwork. Say, hey, I need somebody who has InDesign experience. I need this to look pretty. Add a cover page to it. Add an ending page to it. Now you got 6 pages. Offer that for download on your website. it's pretty easy. And we do that a lot with like repurposing content. So as an example, my book is based on a webinar that I did. So the content was originally done as in a webinar format, then I got converted to a blog format, and then we decided to really amp it up and turn it into a book. So just repurpose your content and find out more ways to leverage that. And that's going to be a good way to generate those leads for your business.
I couldn't agree more. And repurposing content is one of the biggest no-brainers that's out there. We talk about this a lot with people. You know, anything. If you do a conversation like this, record it, transcript it, you've now got a ton of content. And by the way, yes, every transcripting software out there is going to make mistakes. I haven't found one that's going to make it pitch perfect. And if somebody's got a slight accent or anything else, it becomes even more fun. But it doesn't matter. The bulk of it is written for you. You've got the key points to extract. You can repurpose this into shorter videos. You can, like you said, take a couple of your blog posts together and pull them together as a guide to be able to offer that kind of stuff for people. And even then, you know, this most simplistic form of like a gated piece of content. If you've got a video or a series of videos that you've done and you think that these are worth paying, or not paying for, but somebody might actually sign up for, you know, 5-step guide to doing X or 3 steps to doing Y, whatever it might be, put that behind a gated thing and actually ask people to give you their details. You'll be amazed. If there's a simple, clear and honest transaction, people will exchange that for something that's worthwhile and something that brings them value.
I completely agree. And at the same time, I also, like, one thing that we also try to get people, you don't always have to gate all of your content, right? Make a lot of your content out there accessible. The fact that they're getting the content is going to be really, really helpful. And then you can have ways in that content to say, hey, we'd love to send you more. Give us your email here. But you don't have to gate everything. That's one common thing that we see. There's a lot of testing around ungated, gated. So just do some testing.
Yeah, just to make that clear, don't go and grab all your blogs off your website and make nothing but PDFs and then have nothing but, you know, MailChimp signups to get this free PDF. That wasn't the plan of what we were trying to say.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Okay, so in your sense, like what you're currently doing. So obviously you've got McGaw and you've got UTM. Mm-hmm. What's UTM? Now, obviously, for other people that don't know what UTM stands for, but from your point of view, what are you doing in that sense?
Yeah, so UTMs are a little bit of code that you can add to any of your URLs when you're promoting on social media or email or advertising. And then when people click that link and go back to your website, your analytics tool knows where that person came from. So they're campaign tracking codes. And the big thing that everybody does is they always make a UTM spreadsheet at their organization so people could build the codes correctly. They can use known parameters and things like that. But those spreadsheets are really, really kind of like simple to use. They don't provide a lot of like data governance or anything like that. And our tool really gives a company the ability to, one, ditch the spreadsheet, have all of your parameters directly in our platform, have a really, really easy UTM builder that anybody can use. It has the ability to create templates, so that way if you do something over and over and over again, you can make a template and just pop it in. But for big organizations as well, it also gives a lot of superpowers. Our free plan is, I mean, beyond belief. Like, it's amazing. It's unlimited, almost everything. So, like, we don't want anybody to pay. But for the bigger companies, we have a full set of like UTM builder rules, which will really lock things down and make it so that only people can only create what they're supposed to. There's also a lot of dynamic variables, UTM conventions. There's a whole bunch of other additional like enterprise and big business features that are in there. But the free plan is, I mean, super dope, right? Integrated in with Bitly, unlimited links, unlimited clicks, unlimited team members. So, but it's a super powerful tool to get your analytics data and your campaign data nice and clean.
It's worth noting as well, like, so Google Analytics tries to do a lot of this itself in the sense of knowing where it's come from, where traffic has come from, whether it was pushed by Facebook or by LinkedIn and stuff. The idea of this is to add that next level, right? It's to add campaign information to know, you know, what's being clicked from where, when, why you sent it out. So if you're sending the same email out over 2-3 different days or to different segments of your audience for whatever reason, these are the moments that you really want to kind of use these trackings properly. Is that right?
No, absolutely right. UTMs are the most proliferous tracking method on the internet, right? So they've been around for close to 20 years as well. So definitely, it gives you a lot more granular data on how people are getting to your site from the links that you're creating all over the place. I mean, we have clients that have billboards, right? And on their billboards, they have a vanity domain that links back to their own website, but has UTMs on it, so they know it came from that billboard. So UTMs should really be used as much as possible, so you can really definitively say, hey, this campaign worked, this campaign didn't work, or email's really not performing well. And if you just Google like what is a UTM code, there's more blog posts about what is a UTM code than what is marketing automation. I can promise you that. UTMs have been out much, much, much longer, and are one of the basics of digital marketing. So definitely, if you're not using them now, highly recommend it. And check out utm.io, sign up for a free account. It'll make it super easy as well.
We'll add links to that in the bottom. And again, please don't go down a rabbit hole and then message us saying, I spent 4 days trying to figure out UTMs and it hasn't helped me get any more sales or anything like that. This is to add a whole new level and a whole new layer to your analytics side of things. And I think that's hugely important. Cool. I don't know. We've covered so much. I kind of want to get into the tech stack again because I love this idea. And you were mentioning Twilio as well. There's something about having multiple channels that sometimes kind of gets people, right? We want to allow people to connect with us in as many places as possible. But the biggest challenge can then also be the more places you have for people to contact you or to connect with you, the more places you have to respond to people, right? That can become quite, I don't want to say dirty, but it can become quite frustrating, right? There's stuff everywhere and there's not really a good way. What are some of the tricks or tips or even tools that you guys use to make sure that you're actually covering all of those bases?
Yeah, really, really good question. So, I think it can be a little hard because, like, with Facebook Messenger and Pinterest and all the different platforms, right? Like, I'm not really in the, I would say, the social space or the messaging space when it comes down to managing the communications through those. I'd be more involved with the advertising side of that stuff. So I don't have the best method in regards to how do you manage all that inbound stuff, but I definitely know there's got to be tools out there that would kind of help you with that. I know at the enterprise level, Yext is really, really popular, enabling you to manage many, many, many locations across many different platforms, how they look and all that stuff. So I do know there's some other platforms out there. And, a lot of what my focus on is usually around those advertising platforms. So trying to extract the data out of those platforms, then being able to get that into a usable place. So a lot of times what we're more focused on is, hey, listen, Facebook, AdWords, LinkedIn, Bing, all of these platforms have cost data, click data, impression data. We need to be able to pull all that data down. We need to put it into a warehouse and then be able to basically put our conversion data on top of it and then run reporting, whether that be in a Google Data Studio or a Tableau or a Looker. And that's really kind of my view on those tools, is trying to get the data extracted out. And in that case, like, we're using products like Funnel.io, Fivetran, Stitch, even products like Segment enable us to pull that data down. But from a true messaging and communications standpoint, like using Facebook Messenger and all that stuff, I don't really know the tools in that space, unfortunately, because they're not really considered, at least for most of the people that we work with, they're not considered part of the stack. They're more of a communications tool. And I think platforms like Sprout Social or Zendesk, support tools, I think those tools will most likely be able to help you do that. And now that I think about it, Sprout Social would probably be the main player in that space for that type of communication.
It's really funny, actually, because so here we probably differ slightly. For me, that element is almost as important as anything else. If you've got to the point where somebody has messaged you, for me, that's like the win. It's the dream. It's, it's the best thing that could be possible to happen. This is like making the phone ring back in the day when you put an advert in the yellow pages. And I think it is actually quite a complex task. And platforms like Sprout Social, and we used to use Hootsuite many years ago. There's lots of them out there. They've become ridiculously expensive, even for small teams. But, if especially for like an agency, I think it's better if you've only got a few channels and you're managing the internal thing. But as an agency, we might manage 50 to 60 profiles at any one time. We've got 3 or 4 users. That's just for our team. Then you've got the client users that need to be onboarded onto these things. And you can get to a point where it's like 400 or 500 quid a month per user. And it's quite terrifying when you hear those numbers, because you're like, wow, like, we'd have to charge tens of thousands just to make up for the software. But it is a really interesting one, and I do agree with you. It's yeah, have a look at the various different platforms, but making sure that you're always on top of those inbound messages, because I do think that's an important one to look after.
I would totally agree. One of our clients, and it's funny that I forgot this. One of our clients is like one of the main players in that space. They're called Sprinkler, but they only service the Fortune 500. So like super enterprise, but their whole point is the social listening, social engagement, social management. And they do some really cool stuff. They just went public a couple, I would say a month ago or so. But yeah, they're one of our clients. I totally forgot about that.
Sorry guys at Sprinkler, it's okay.
Yeah, no, I mean, they'll get it. I mean, it's hard to remember all of your clients that you work with and what they do on the fly. I mean, I think we work with like 30 people or 30 clients right now, so you can't keep track of everybody.
That's all good. Before we wrap up, Dan, what's the biggest tip you'd give to anyone that's struggling right now to get digital marketing to give them results?
Shut up and try harder would be the first thing.
Some tough love from Dan, everybody.
Tough love, yeah. No, honestly, it'd probably be the exact opposite. I'm just trying to be funny here. Is take a step back, right, from whatever you're trying to do and work on something else for a little while, and then come back to that again in the future. And then digital marketing is just, if there's a difference between a what problem and a who problem. Maybe it's not digital marketing is your problem. Maybe it's you who's the problem. And that's when you need to bring somebody else out in who knows how to do it. And I think that's something that a lot of companies get wrong is they try to keep bashing their head and try harder and just figure it out. But in some cases, it's really better to hire somebody else who's better at it and bring them in. Even myself, I'm an extremely sophisticated marketer. I mean, I know how all these channels work. I've been doing this for a long time. We have multiple agencies that do work for us, right? So like there's nothing wrong with hiring a consultant. It's actually smarter in many cases because you get to where you want to go faster. So that would be one thing I would pose people to consider is try something else and then come back to it, or hire somebody to do it because you might just be the problem.
The number of times that I've spoken to a business, especially small businesses, and when we're talking about social content, getting stuff out there, and we've been told my secretary's niece is going to do this for us. She's got Facebook or whatever else. And you go, awesome, guys. Best of luck. I hope this all works out. I'm sure they've got it all in the bag. It's the same service that we're offering, obviously. Right. Anyway, wrong person, wrong job. Good luck. That's awesome. Dan, where can people find you online? Where's the best place to connect with you?
Yeah, I mean, you can definitely go to McGaw.io. So my last name is MCGAW and then just .io. But I'm most active on LinkedIn. So if you really want to chat with me, go to LinkedIn, look up Dan McGaw. I'll be on there. I'm always trying to post cool stuff about whether it be industry stuff or what's going on at our companies. So always happy to answer questions and help people out.
Fantastic. We'll add that to the show notes as well as the instructions for getting a free copy of the book. Dan, thank you so much for coming on the show today.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It was a pleasure.